Now, from My 33, it's Jim and Jade in the morning.
Lawmakers are close, but not there yet. Key Democrats and the Bush administration are still wrestling over details of the proposed $700 billion bailout plan. The White House wants a clean, quick bill with a minimum of fine print. But some in Congress have considerable concerns over giving the Treasury Secretary what seems like unchecked power to spend nearly $1 trillion taxpayer dollars.
We don't have a lot of time. We recognize that. We want to act. But we also want to act responsibly and carefully to make sure we do this correctly.
There's a number of issues on the table, but executive compensation remains a major sticking point.
Unfortunately, there's been enough damage done by a lack of regulation, so we have to do some intervention.
Barney Frank, the head of the Financial Services Committee, believes Washington's hands-off attitude towards Wall Street has led to excessive risk-taking that's put the entire economy in a hole.
You have rules in a lot of these companies where if the executive makes takes a gamble and it pays off, he or she makes a lot of money. But if it doesn't pay off, they don't lose any money. It's heads I win, tails we break even.
The two sides are making progress. They've agreed in principle on a new oversight board, some measure of relief for struggling homeowners, and how to divide any potential profits. But details are still sketchy to be hammered out as Wall Street and Washington collide. And the bailout could get even more expensive. Some lawmakers want to tack on a new economic stimulus package, and that could raise the tab to over $1 trillion. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBS 4 News.
So what does this bailout mean for you? Financial expert Joseph Meyer is here to explain that. Let's pick it up right where Tara left off. She used the word it's going to take $1 trillion. You and I were talking about that before. You said $700 billion is just not going to do it.
Good morning, Cynthia. Thank you and CBS News for having me. I think $700 billion may be somewhat on the light side, and I think it's probably going to take in excess of $1 trillion to actually fund what needs to be done in the marketplace and turn this situation around.
Okay, and is it going to work, though? When we do this, we're just throwing money left and right. Is it going to work?
Well, I don't think in the short term it'll probably bring too much relief to people who are certainly suffering with these adjustable rate mortgages in the marketplace. But I do think it's very positive and constructive, and over the long term, I think it will make a significant difference.
Okay, where is this money coming from, and how's it going to be applied, and can you give us the few 1, 2, 3 steps here?
Well, the money is going to be coming from the Treasury, and it's going to be funded through the Federal Reserve. But I think at the end of the day, people have to keep in mind that the taxpayer is going to pay the final bill.
Are we going to see the federal interest rate cut again?
I think there's a very good possibility that we see some more subsequent cuts in interest rates. I think we're at the point now where the economy has really started to slow quite significantly.
Everyone's thinking, oh my gosh, are you kidding? $700 billion, maybe $1 trillion.
Possibly.
The CEOs of major companies like Goldman Sachs made $70 million last year. Why are we bailing them out?
Well, I think you have to keep in perspective. Historically, CEOs in the old days used to make 20 times the average worker's salary. What we've witnessed here in the last decade is CEOs making 400 times the average worker's salary. I think it's an abuse of the system, and I think it has to be stopped, and I think it will be.
And what's our other option? If we don't spend all this money to try to fix the problem, what's the other option?
Well, I think when you talk about housing, it's quite honestly too late to sell, and I think a lot of people have to stay in their homes, and I think the federal government's going to do everything possible to allow people to remain in their homes. I think the key is we're going to have a lot of adjustable rate mortgages adjust 2010 and 11. Ironically, we have $500 billion in adjustable rate mortgages that are going to reset in the next 3 years, and the majority of them are in California, where $300 billion are getting ready to reset just next year.
When's the last time the stock market and the real estate market were this bad?
Well, I think you'd have to go back historically, certainly to the 1920s and the crash we had in '29, and certainly the Depression, which took the balance of the 30s to work itself through. So I think we're in uncharted territory, and I think, quite frankly, we're in unprecedented times.
So, compare that a little. We keep hearing 1929, 1929, 1929. Compare that time to this time. It seems a little extreme.
Well, I think the difference is simply the crash of '29 was brought on by excessive stock speculation. We had 10% margin. And here we've had excessive speculation in real estate, people buying homes with very little money down. And I think the markets had to unwind because valuations certainly reached a point where homes became unaffordable.
All right. Joseph Meyer, thank you so much for your time this morning. He is a financial expert. You'll see him on stations all over the place. So we are so lucky to have you here this morning, and we do appreciate your time and your insight.
Thank you so much for having me.